everybody, welcome back. We are on the last part, finally, of the corner to corner one ball shawl. Today we are going to do the final border and the finishing. So we're going to tuck in all these ends. We're going to do the final border around. I didn't do it last time because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for the final edge. And I think I'm just going to do a simple picot stitch around because I was thinking I would do something big and loopy, which would be great and beautiful, except when I wear it, it would get stuck on everything. So I decided just to do something little that would still look nice but would be tucked in. So this is the neck side, the top side that we did on the last video. So that I'm still just going to do in a single stitch across just to make it a little more give it a little more stability at the top. And I'm going to do that last. And I decided to do that last because in most cases I would flip my work over and start going this way. But I don't want the back of these stitches to be the front of this row. So I'm just going to continue going around like I had been so that all my fronts match up. Since this is a wearable, I want the fronts to match up. So that it just looks more even and more polished when we wear it. So I'm going to do a single a chain stitch just to put that in there. And for the picot, I'm going to do 5 stitches, just flat stitches, and then I'm going to do just a little bump stitch. So I'll do it here in the corner and then I'll start across. So for these ones here, I'm just going to do 5 regular single stitches into the stitches that I put in the last round. And this will be my finished edge for these. So for the corner, I'm going to put one right in, let's see, so I have 3 stitches here in the corner. So this will be a stitch, and then I'm going to do a stitch in this corner, and then I'm going to chain, I think, 6. We'll see if that works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then single stitch back into the same stitch just to give us a little bump. I think that's good. That's 6. I think that's a nice little bump at the edge. So we're going to do 5. We did 6 on this one, so let's do 6. We'll do 6 single stitches and then a little bump of 6. So we're going to do, we'll do that all the way across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a single in the same. So there's our little picot stitch that'll stick out every once in a while. So that's all we're going to do all the way around up to the neck portion. We'll do differently, but for the 2 sides we're just going to do 6 all the way around. So that was 2. made it back to the corner to start the front again. So I think the edging came out real well. It's got a little interest to it, but it'll make it so I can wear it and not get stuck on every doorway I walk through, which would happen if I made it longer and loopier. So if you are not someone who gets stuck in doorways, like I do, I guess that's a nice way of saying if you're not a super klutz, make it however suits you. If you want it bigger, if you want it smaller, if you want it just as a neck wrap, if you want it as a full-out shawl, if you want it fringy and flappy, you make it however it suits you. This is how I know I need it for me because I'm super clumsy, and if I make it too big, then it's too bulky and I won't want to wear it. And if I make it so that it really dangles, I'll get stuck on every single thing I walk by. That's just me. So I'm back around again. This little portion here only has 5. I was 1 stitch short. Don't tell anyone. So I'm still going to do a 6 here in the corner to match the other side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're just going to start up this side and over. We're just going to straight single crochet all the way across. Everything else is done. There's our corner. Pulls out nicely. Everything else is done. I had originally called it fancy, but a simple picot stitch is not really that fancy, but it still gives it a little something, and it's fancier than just a regular single crochet all the way around. So now on this side, where's the other side? I want them to match. So did I do, no, I didn't do anything here where it transitions into, oh, I haven't done it yet. No, I'm not going to do anything where it transitions into the neck. I'm just going to do it single crochet all the way through. Except for I do have one thing I want to show you where I made a mistake yesterday. I did the count backwards here on this first one, so you can see it's not straight. There's a little divot there. So I'm going to do a bigger stitch right now in this one side. This is a corner, so I'm going to put 2 there just to make it so it's a little more cornery. So right here it's pulled a little bit. See how it pulls funny? It's not straight. So I'm going to do the reverse of what I did yesterday. Well, the same really as what I did yesterday. I'm going to do a half double here and a half double here just to kind of straighten it out a little bit. Hopefully that will straighten it out a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to my singles here just straight across, and see it's straight now, and you can't really tell. It just kind of blends in. That's the nice thing about variegated yarn or you know, yarn with color changes. It's very forgiving. You can just kind of, where, you know, if that had been white and I was filling in the edge with black, you really wouldn't have been able to see that. But on a variegated like this, it goes easy. So now I'm in the neck portion now. I'm just going to do single crochet in the top stitch all the way across. So you don't need to watch that. I will meet you at the other side and we will start finishing. So we have made it all the way back around to where we started from, and unfortunately I had a slight malfunction with my audio on this part, so I'm taping it again instead of in the studio when I was originally working on it. So it's hard to say what noises you'll hear. Kids, goats, chickens. It's that time of night where the chickens or the goats' kids are starting to scream, so you may get some interesting noises throughout this section, but we've made it all the way back around to the corner. So this is the end of the neck portion, so it was just single stitches all the way across. And you can see we're back to that first corner, that first picot. But
unfortunately, we didn't need to go all the way to the first picot, so we had to tear it out a little bit back because I went a few stitches too far. That's okay. So we tore it out. Now we'll just slip stitch it back to that first stitch of that round. And then just trim it off because we are done. That is the end of the stitching portion. And just pull that through. Leave the tail long enough that we can tuck it in later. But we are all done with the stitches now. There's the yarn I had left over. I did pretty good with judging how much I would need, so I wouldn't have had enough for another row, so I'm happy with that. It's enough for me to keep because I'm a yarn hoarder, so I'll put it in my scrap bucket, use it for doll hair or a doll sweater or something eventually, but just the right amount of yarn left over, so that makes me happy. So now we're going to finish our joins. So we're gonna weave these ends in. We have 3 of them. We have a start, we have an end, and then we have where the yarn needed to be joined one time in the middle. So here's our start. This is the bottom point of the back. That was the start of the corner to corner. So I've already sewed over it a few times when I was putting the original round of edging on. So if you don't use a yarn needle and you work with yarn, get yourself some. Don't do yourself a favor. Don't use a regular sewing needle. The yarn needle has a bigger eye, and so I got this tube on Amazon, like 12 of them. They're like $5. The yarn eye is big enough to put the yarn in, and it's blunt on the end, so you don't get caught on everything. So you skip this first stitch. Always, if you go under it, you'll just pull right back out again. So skip the first, go back through under a few more. I normally do 3 or 4 just to make sure it's really locked in there. And then go back one more time. I always like to go sew over it if I can, and then go back once, and then go back again once. If you go back and forth, the yarn can't go that many directions, so it kind of locks itself in there. So again, skip that first one, go under a few more. For baby blankets, I actually tie a knot in there. I know you're not really supposed to because it does leave a little bump, but I feel like baby blankets get washed so many times that there's a good possibility no matter what you do, they're going to pull out. So I always put just a little bitty knot in there to hold it too. But there's our first one. Snip it off, and then just kind of give it a little tug, even it out. Make sure your block looks like the rest. No one will ever know it's there. So I always put mine on the back side, or at least I always try to get them on the same side, and then I call that side the back side. So there, our blocks are all evened out, looking good. And we put our join on the inside, so no one will ever see it. No one will ever know it's there except you. All right, so let's move on to where our yarn was joined in the middle. Got a lot of yarn in here. I got to find it. All right, there it is. Oh, wait, where'd it go? There it is. Unfortunately, it's on the front side. But because this is such an open weave pattern, we'll just poke it right through. If this was a tighter stitch, you'd have to use a needle to poke it through, but this is pretty open, so you can just poke it right through. Even up that block so it looks like it's like the rest. You'll never even know that that's the one that has the join in it. Trim everything up so it's the same length. Because you're using a yarn needle and the eye is big enough, you just put both threads through at once. And the same procedure as last time. Skip the first one, really wiggle it through there and into those stitches. When I was first learning how to do weaving in the ends the right way, they said, poke it through the stitches, through the yarn, break the yarn and poke it right through the middle parts. And that to me just seems so messy. I was like, I don't want to do that. I prided myself on always being able to miss it, but it really does make it stronger if you actually poke it through the yarn. It has a much harder time of wiggling itself out just because of the friction in there. So trim it off, even up your blocks again. From the front side, you'll never even know it's there. That's the back side. From the front side, you never even know it's there. You can't see where it is at all except for, in this case, a little bit of a color change, but you can't really see it. On the back side, there are some little white threads there, but that's just the way the yarn is. So all good. And our last one is the end. So obviously I have not sewn over this one yet because we just did it when we finished it off. So this one we'll have to do 3 times. So just kind of dig it in wherever it makes sense to dig it in there. There you go, just kind of poke it through. Go through 3 or 4 stitches, and then the same procedure as the others. You just turn around, skip that first one, go back through a few, turn around, skip the first one, and go back through a few. Luckily, on projects like this where the yarn is variegated and easy to use, it's not a big deal. If you're using contrasting colors or something that might show, make sure you look before you cut that you haven't poked through somewhere you shouldn't have and don't need to pull it back out again, because once you cut it, it's almost impossible. But there we have it, all done. The neck, the little picots at the corners and going around. Kind of looks like butterfly wings almost to me, so I really like how it turned out. All the little picots stand up just right. I think they're just enough that they'll, you can see them, they're there, but they're not, crazy dangly and obtrusive. So I think it turned out real well. The neck is a little stretchy. It's just beautiful. So the Lion brand shawl in a ball, I think is a success. So I told you I found it on clearance. If you can, even at full price, I think it's worth it. It's a real nice yarn to work with. It worked out real well. So I think the shawl in a ball is a success. It's a nice size, looks good. And now we have to find something to make for our next project. So if you can, pick up some shawl in a ball and show me what your corner to corners look like.